Good evening, everyone. I am so excited that you're here with me this evening. We have a lot to learn, and I'm hoping what you learned tonight helps you move forward in your life, no matter what you've experienced, and helps you help someone else who may be experiencing what we're going to talk about. So, if you're like, who is this person who just popped up on my feed? And what are you talking about? My name is Dallas Cohen. I'm the rebound coach. And just a tiny little bit about me. Before becoming the rebound coach, I was raised by two godly parents. They loved God, they loved each other. They were married for a lifetime. And they were a good example of what marriage could be. Actually, my father was my mother's caretaker. And so I saw what caring and serving looked like in a marriage. They were great. At the same time, I was molested from age 8 to age 16, and that radically affects how you see yourself. For me, in a faith-based household, how I related to God and how I related to men. And so fast forward, when I met the man that I married, there were definite red flags, and we're going to talk about some of that today. There were definite red flags going on. But as a woman of faith, I, number one, believed that God was with us. And number two, I believed that whatever trouble would come, we'd be able to overcome it. Well, trouble came right away. Some people talk about having like a honeymoon period of things going well and then crashing and burning. That wasn't our story. Trouble came right away and never quite went away. It would kind of fade in the background a little bit and then come back with a vengeance in some sort of crisis. And as the years went on, we got into this kind of cycle that I call coping in crisis. We would manage to do okay for a while. And when I say okay, I mean like, oh, well, no one broke anything today. Or like, we're doing okay. Like it's a dance where we're doing our best to get along and not have a blow up. But no matter how hard I tried, eventually the blow up came. And we'd fall into some kind of gigantic crisis and everything would fall apart. And then we'd kind of find our way back to coping. And as the years went on, the crisis got bigger and bigger and bigger. And all the way until the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, my then husband of almost 10 years at that point left for another woman. And I found out maybe the next day or the following day that he and that woman had been plotting my murder for months by the time I found out. Needless to say, this was a really scary time in my life, and a time where you're just kind of stopped and you're evaluating your entire life. And I was just, everything was threatened. My identity as a human being, as a child of God, as a mom, as a wife, just as a woman, and as a coach. I had been coaching, and you're like, what, you coach a sports team? I'm a life coach. And what that generally means is life coaches help people get unstuck in one area of life or another. And I was a life coach for relationships, specifically marriages and difficult marriages in faith-based households and faith-based unions. So if you can imagine, building this entire identity and platform all around this particular idea, God wants you to stay married, and let me show you how, and no matter how hard it is, this is what you need to do. And your very own marriage and family is falling apart all around you, and it's not anything you can hide anymore. It's not anything you can pretend to yourself. It's not the case anymore. And I had a really important decision to make amidst all of that. I could allow the cycle of defeat that I had lived in for so long. I could allow the identity that my then husband had for me, which there was an identity that he wanted me to live up to, and I believed I was supposed to live up to or live down to. It's interesting. I could allow that to kind of tell me who I was and tell me how many days I had left on the planet and tell me what God thought of me and tell me what I was supposed to think of myself. Or I could choose life. And so I wrote my second book out of that entire situation, and it's called I Choose Life. You can see it, wait, over there. See it over there. It's called I Choose Life, Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. And it's not just, my story of how in the world I'm still here and you and I are having this moment today, because there was a really dramatic series of events that allowed me to be safe, to get safe from me and my children. That's already a miracle by itself. And I tell you, if you like the Law and Order SVU kind of stuff, like if that's your jam, you're gonna love this book. Because it's like all those kind of details, murder mystery kind of stuff. But not just that, but it's not just my story in a storytelling way, but it's a way that you yourself, whether you have a story of domestic violence like myself, or someone who's going through that, or you just you've had some struggles in your life and you want to come back and you want to write a different story for yourself, this is the way to do that. So if you would like to get a book, you can find one at thereboundcoach.com/book. You can order from me directly. Hey, Kim, good to see you. I'm so glad you joined today. You can order right from Amazon, right from the webpage, or you can order from me directly and I will sign a book and mail it to you. So you can find that at thereboundcoach.com/book. Also, I wanted to make sure that I shared this with you. If you are local to the Tampa Bay area, we are having yes, thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much. We're having a book signing here locally in Tampa, and this is the information for that. It is this Saturday, October 23rd from 3 to 5 p.m. Of course, that is Eastern time at a new community center called Dr. Tracy's House. This is the information here. If you are watching me on Facebook, this is where this is live streamed. You can find this information on our Facebook page, which is, of course, facebook.com/thereboundcoach. You can find this information. It's actually a Facebook event. You can RSVP to come. I would love to see you in person. I'm doing sections of the book. I will be reading from it. I will be answering questions. So if you hear this story and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many questions for her, come see me. I'd love to see you and answer your questions. So again, that is this Saturday, October 23rd from 3 to 5 in Tampa. So just wanted to share that information with you. Okay, cool. So today we have been in a series. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And while, of course, after my ordeal, domestic violence has become something I talk about more often than not, it is also a focus of this month in our nation, which is a really important thing to be talking about. So each week this month, I've been covering different aspects of abuse, and you can find all of these recordings on our Facebook page. Again, facebook.com/thereboundcoach. So the first week we talked about physical abuse, which is what most people think of when they hear domestic violence. They think about a battered wife, bruises and cuts and scars. The following week, we talked about sexual abuse in the faith-based marriage, which was a very, very good conversation. If you did not see it, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go back and watch. I had a guest, Jessica Pata, and she wrote a book, The 10 Things Your Husband Says After He Rapes You. Like, it's that serious. And we talk about marital rape and consent and what that entire construct looks like. Again, I highly recommend you go check that out and share it with somebody you care about, no matter what you think they're dealing with. Again, you can find that on our Facebook page. Yes, very, very, very important conversation. Today, we are talking about, we're going from the most visible kind of domestic violence all the way to the least visible kind. And so today we're kind of doing a combo of talking about financial abuse in a marriage or relationship, any relationship, financial abuse and emotional abuse. Those are a little harder to see and understand. And so I'm going to read some information for you. There's actually a lot of information online about these topics. And I just think it's so valuable. So I'm reading from, and let me tell you the name of the website. And I'm going to have to look at it. It is called Very Well Mind. So verywellmind.com. It's information on mental health and different things about mental health. So this is about emotional abuse. This is a definition. Emotional abuse is a way to control another person by using emotions to criticize, embarrass, shame, blame, or otherwise manipulate another person. In general, a relationship is emotionally abusive when there is a consistent pattern of abusive words and bullying behaviors that wear down a person's self-esteem and undermine their mental health. Okay, so that's like big and wordy, but to put it in a vernacular, sometimes when you hear emotional abuse or verbal abuse, you might hear that and you think, well, if somebody calls somebody out their name, thank you for putting that in. That is a very good resource. I'm actually going to pop it up so you guys can see it. Thank you so much, Kimberly. But you might hear like, oh, well, if they make fat jokes, or if they call you out your name, or if they talk about you to somebody else. And those are really kind of blatant ways of verbal abuse or emotional abuse. That's one way. And so you might think, well, he doesn't really like make fun of me. So that might not be what I'm dealing with. There's a whole other dynamic that you might hear called covert abuse. So last week, Jessica and I talked about words you might hear when people are talking about abuse. You might hear things like, oh, he's a covert narcissist, or he's a sex addict, or he's got intimacy anorexia. Like there's a lot of terms kind of bandied about. So I don't want you to get swallowed up in that. But there's as many ways as there are human beings to interact with each other, there's ways to abuse. So it can be very complex. I just want to show a few examples today to kind of give you just a broad understanding, because you know what, the big reason why I'm doing this, and for some of you who've been maybe on my Facebook page on the personal side or on the business page, you've seen me posting about examples from my own life of emotional abuse and financial abuse and different thoughts and things. And some folks have been in my inbox. We're going to call them concerned citizens. So some concerned citizens have been in my inbox, and they are concerned that I am bitter or resentful, or I'm making a cry for help. And so not necessarily not the help. Yes, the helpful people. So not really trying to settle the score, so to speak, but I just want to bring light to something really important. I was married for 10 years. My former husband and I were together for almost 12 years total. And the entirety of the relationship was abusive. The entirety. The problem with that was I didn't recognize that was what was going on. And it's a very common thing for abused women not to realize they are being abused. Number one, they don't realize what the abuse is. And number two, they don't realize what they're supposed to be doing about it. And I sat in sermons Sunday after Sunday, and eventually Saturday after Saturday, watching people talk about relationships and relationship dynamics. And they'd say little caveats like, well, if you're abused, you should leave. Right? They would say that. So their conscience is clear. They said the words. But unless you know that that's your situation, you don't know how to apply that information. And I thought we had a normal, well, I won't say normal because I knew it wasn't normal, but what I thought was all I have to do is outlast this trouble. He's got trauma, he had a bad childhood, he has this, mental illness thing, which I'm going to talk about next week when we talk about spiritual issues, because that's a whole different conversation. But I had kind of reasoned with myself that these are just things that are going on. This is his special case. God has anointed me to deal with his special case, and it's going to be fine. I'm not in that abused category. Every October, they would talk about domestic violence, and I'd hear sad stories, and I go, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for those abused women. What a horrible thing they're dealing with. It's so sad. And I never saw myself in the mix. And as a matter of fact, early on in the marriage, when we were not first having problems, but when I first started telling people we were having these kinds of problems, the professionals we were going to, I got pregnant right away in my marriage. So we went to a pregnancy care center, and I shared with them what I was dealing with, and it was already too much for what their services provided. So they referred me to a domestic violence, not a shelter, but an organization that provided services for domestic violence. And I was like, I don't need to go there. Like, that's not my situation. I don't need to go there. And they said, you know what? If you don't go there, we're not going to give you free diapers anymore. And so we went. That's kind of how that goes. And I remember very, very clearly, and I write about this in the book too, very, very clearly walking into this intake center, and this people behind the screen, like if you go to a medical place and they're behind the window, go there, and I'm filling out papers, and the paper says victim and abuser, or like victim and perpetrator. It's like, I don't know whose name goes there, but I'm not a victim, and I don't have a perpetrator. I said, me and my husband need help. Right? That's how I presented. How can I help you, ma'am? Me and my husband need help. And they said, well, we can help you. Like, we can help you have an exit plan. We can help you find services. And I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. Like, me and my husband, we're just having some marriage problems, and we just need some counseling. And if you guys could help us with communication, we're going to be fine. It went completely over my head. And it's going over the heads of many, many, many women, and to the tune of 1 in 4. There's 1 in 4 women is the national statistic for women who will have experienced domestic violence in some form in their lifetime. 1 in 4. That's 25%, which is quite a bit. And it's not because they don't know what it is. It's because they don't understand all the complexities and the way that it affects them. So that's why I'm posting. That's why I'm sharing different events that have happened in my life. It's not because I'm bitter or I'm out to get anybody. If anybody I'm trying to get the woman who was just like me, who didn't realize that's what was happening. So that's why we're talking about this, and I will likely be talking about this in some form for the rest of my days, because it's that important. Okay, off the soapbox for a second. No guarantees I won't come back on. So how do you know if there's emotional abuse happening, right? And here's the truth. We all have propensity to abuse one another. Just like we can do proper use, we can do abnormal use or abuse of people we care about, because we're short-sighted, because we're angry, because we're not taking care of ourselves the way we need to, right? So there's all sorts of dynamics going on. What you're looking for is not an incident. You're looking for a pattern, and specifically a pattern of power and control, where someone's trying to exert control over you over and over and over, or many different ways, or or increasingly as time goes on. And that was definitely the case in my life. It's, didn't start huge. It was just little things. And my tolerance grew as well over time. My tolerance for taking it, really, and justifying and finding a workaround, that also grew as the time went on. So I want to read a little bit of examples. Emotional abusive people display unrealistic expectations. So some examples include making unreasonable demands of you, expecting you to put everything aside to meet their needs. If you think about how a child behaves, this is that, except they're an adult. Demanding that you spend all of your time together, being dissatisfied that no matter how hard you try or how much you give, criticizing you for not completing a task according to their standards. Judgmental moms, pay attention. Expecting you to share their opinions. And then if you don't share their opinion, something's wrong with you. Like there's criticism around that. Demanding that you name exact dates and times when discussing things that upset you. And then if you can't do this, they say, well, that didn't happen. You can't tell me when that happened. Prove that happened. That's also something called gaslighting. We talked about that last week, so I won't go into that today. But Jessica and I talked about gaslighting last week. Invalidating you. Okay, some examples include undermining, dismissing, distorting your perceptions of reality, refusing to accept your feelings, trying to define how you should feel. Okay. Requiring you to explain how you feel over and over again, telling you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, crazy. So there was a time in my book, I talk about my former husband being a serial adulterer. And there was a time where, like towards the end of things, where he just looked at me and was like, well, how long do I have to pay for this mistake? Something along those lines. And it gave me pause. And I thought, like, man, am I doing that? A reasonable person, when a criticism comes, a reasonable person wants to try that on and see if that's true. Like they actually consider, am I doing that? Right? An unreasonable person does not consider at all. But a reasonable person would say, oh man, am I doing that? So I pause. Man, am I holding him to something that he's repented of? Repenting and apologizing, two different issues. So I considered it. And so he got away from whatever I was confronting him with at the moment. And then I thought about it later. Well, he's still doing it. He's still doing it. Of course, I'm going to hold him to something he's still doing, right? That's an example of a combination of gaslighting and emotional abuse where you're like, man, am I doing? Hey, wait a minute. And you're kind of separated from reality, and you're kind of living in their reality, which is very different from what everyone else can see. Also creating chaos, starting arguments for the sake of arguing, making confusing or contradictory statements, having drastic mood changes or sudden emotional outbursts. Like if you're afraid of what they're going to say all the time, you're afraid of how they're going to take news. You're afraid of, man, I can't say that to him because, manipulation. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So, or they cry. I remember once if I said, hey, could you pray for me about thus and so? He'd pray. And then the very next moment he had the exact same issue and he's crying now and I need to go comfort him, stuff like that. Using emotional blackmail. Okay. Yes, the tears. Oh my gosh. Using emotional blackmail, exaggerating your flaws or pointing them out in order to deflect attention or to avoid taking responsibility for their poor choices or mistakes, denying that an event took place or lying about it, punishing you by withholding affection or giving you the silent treatment, humiliating you in public or private, using your fears, values, compassion, or other hot buttons to control you or the situation. And that also ties into the spiritual piece, which I'll talk about next week. And here's the thing. I'm isolating these as separate veins, but they work together very, very well. They work together. So often we don't just have one kind of abuse. Often we have all of them at different levels at different times. It's very complex. Okay. Or they might act superior, treating you like you're inferior, blaming you for their mistakes and shortcomings, making jokes at your expense, telling you that your opinions, ideas, values, and thoughts are stupid, illogical, or don't make sense. And from someone who has a background like myself, or you come from a faith-based patriarchal system, a lot of men feel entitled to a superiority over women in general, and then specifically in the faith-based marriage structure. I'm your authority, I'm the head, my opinion matters more than yours does. I rule, right? God says I rule, God says I'm in charge, you have to do what I say. We'll talk more about that next week, but it definitely falls in line with this. Acting like they're always right, they know what's best, and they are smarter. Using sarcasm when they're interacting with you, talking down to you, or being condescending. Also, control and isolation, controlling who you see or spend time with, including friends and family. So I told a story today, or not today, but this past week. Yes, because God says so. This past week I posted about this. So 2018, I want to say it's 2018. My grandmother turned 85, and she was up north, and I live in Florida, and we as a family lived in Florida at the time. And so I got a call and said, "Hey, would you like to come? We're throwing your grandmother a surprise party." Well, yeah, I wanted to come. As a matter of fact, I hadn't seen my family member in 10 plus years since I had been married. Hadn't seen them. They never had met my then husband. They hadn't met my children. It was a big deal. I was going to get to go see my family. But I had one really big problem. My former husband used to just diametrically oppose anything I wanted. Okay. And so I had to get real crafty about how to ask for things and how to say things, how to present it, or, so I don't like being crafty. I like to just be like, boom, there it is. Like, I'm a pretty straightforward kind of person. So it's always a challenge. And so he immediately refused to go. And this is a tactic to say, I know what you want, and I'm not going to help you do that. And so I couldn't afford to fly, all of us up there. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to drive. I could afford to drive, but I couldn't drive all the way up the East Coast by myself with two small children. He knew that. So him saying he wouldn't go, he's not telling me I couldn't, but he's making it impossible, right? And so I did lots of praying and fasting and asking other people to pray and fast and begging and pleading and trying to make deals and just all sorts of stuff. And eventually, I had made all these plans for the trip, even though my husband said he wasn't going and he didn't want to go and he wasn't going to go. And I remember praying with my cousin and just like, please, I really want to go. And he finally said he would, but he's like, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't like them. He didn't know them. And it's not just me. This wasn't just my experience. Like, lots of women have this experience where their partner doesn't like any of their friends and family and says, I don't like them. That he may say, you can't go, you can't be with them, you can't leave this house, I'll miss you too much. Or he might just be like, I'm just not going to participate. And so in a household like mine, where there's this superiority structure where your husband is your authority, well, if they're not for the trip, are you disobeying God if you go? Right? Like, that's a real consideration. And so we went, and he didn't talk to anybody, and it was very awkward and uncomfortable for the whole thing. But I got all I can get out of it, and I'm glad I went. And it was good too. You'll have to get the book for all the secrets. But yeah. So Kim, you said isolating himself. Wait, I'm reading it. Yeah, exactly. Being antisocial. And so I always was in that place of what I called public damage control and private pain management, right? Like I'm always apologizing for him. He would start trouble, um, like gossip, like go in the church family and be like, oh, well, Dallas said thus and so. Like to the leadership, I was part of I'm serving. And just try to start gossip. Oh, Dallas said this. Oh, she didn't like that. And so the leadership were coming to me like, oh, I'm sorry if I offended you. Didn't offend me. I didn't say that. Like he made that up. Things like that. Just making a mess for the sake of making a mess, and being antisocial and just making things uncomfortable. So other types of emotional abuse, and we're gonna what was that? I said damage control. So I said damage control, publicly damage control. So I'm trying to repair relationships. And oh no, I'm sorry he said that. Oh, you misunderstood him. Oh, that's not really what he meant. He's a quiet guy. Like I'm always trying to smooth things over with the people who observe the crazy. And then internally, I call it pain management. So external damage control, internal pain management. And that for myself, I didn't feel any hope to leave because I didn't feel like that was godly or the right thing to do. I didn't feel like that was an option I could take, or not just could take, but it wasn't an option I should take. If I love God, I shouldn't be considering leaving or divorce or anything. And because of that, I was hopeless and suicidal. To be honest, I didn't feel like there was any other way to be free of that pain. And so it came in waves. It was seasonal, it wasn't all the time, but definitely there was definitely a season of just feeling hopeless and suicidal. And God was so faithful to me. And you'll have to get the book to read the whole situation. But God was so faithful to me in that I did not have to make that decision to leave. The whole thing crumbled under my feet, and it was so stupid. Like God had to make it so crazy obvious that I guess I need to go get safe. Like it was so outrageous. It was so outrageous. Yeah. So exactly, an emotional roller coaster. And because God hates divorce, and who wants to be hated by God? Exactly. For me, and it's not everybody, but it's enough of us. It's enough of us that I'm giving this example. But for me, a core value of integrity is really important. It's something I live by. And it's not so much about my feelings. I need to be right more than I need to feel good. That's a core value of mine. And so I built this entire, I don't know, paradigm, idea, identity around doing the right thing regardless, and especially in spite of how you might be feeling, in spite of the pain that the right decision might cause. In the book, I call that glory in the struggle. And it's not something I just got as an adult. It was something that came along as a child. And so, okay. So all of those are types of emotional abuse. So if you've heard any of those examples, which I've given quite a few, that identify for you, that say, you know what, I think that's what's happening. All right. So what do you do? And before we get to what do you do, I want to talk about financial abuse, because we're double topicking today. Financial abuse in a nutshell, and I'll read this and then we'll break it down. So financial abuse involves controlling a victim's ability to acquire, use, and maintain financial resources. Those who are victimized financially may be prevented from working. They also may have their own money restricted or stolen by the abuser, and rarely do they have complete access to money and other resources. When they do have money, they often have to account for every penny they spend. Overall, the forms of financial abuse vary from situation to situation. Sometimes an abuser may use subtle tactics like manipulation, while other abusers would be more overt, demanding, or intimidating. Okay, so while less commonly understood than other forms of abuse, financial abuse is one of the most powerful methods of keeping a victim trapped in an abusive relationship. Research shows that victims are often too concerned about their ability to provide financially for themselves and their children to end the relationship. Plus, financial insecurity is one of the top reasons women return to an abusive partner. So often when you think of that, or when I think of it, you might think of someone like a woman who does not work outside the home. She might be, a stay-at-home mom, and her abusive husband has all the money, and he controls where the money goes and gives her an allowance for groceries, right? That's a pretty common and a pretty talked about scenario. That wasn't my scenario, and I want to show you a different side. There are a whole lot of men who are able-bodied and choose not to work. They choose not to work, and they choose to be supported by their women. And I think I heard this. I did not read it. I heard it. Okay. So if I'm wrong, fact checkers. I heard that in the African-American community, 70% of women in a relationship with a man make more money than that man. 70%. That's what I heard. Like today. Heard that today. I don't know if that's a true statistic or not, but that's alarming. I was part of that statistic. So, and when I say make more money than like sum to zero. My former husband had a very spotty employment record and would quit jobs and get himself fired on a consistent basis. And so, me as a helper person, I try to do all my helping. It's not a good tactic, even in a healthy marriage, ladies. We can't do all that kind of helping. I don't know if that's true, but I heard it. That's a pretty high statistic. But in any case, it can still be financial abuse if the husband, and anyone can abuse anyone, family members, parents to children, adult children to parents, elders, like anybody can abuse anybody. I'm using in the case of a husband and wife where a wife is abused just because that's the most common. And specifically when we're talking about domestic violence, it's generally the dynamic people are talking about. So understand that this can happen between friends, between coworkers, between anybody, any two human beings. But we're talking about here in a marriage. So it is just as financially abusive for a husband to lay on the couch and not contribute to his household. And some families say, well, that's a dynamic that we're okay with. We agree that while he's in school, she's going to work, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this pattern, again, not an incident or two, and not a season that you both talked about. We're talking about a very consistent pattern of, I'm not going to help you at all. You're going to have to do it all yourself. And so here's what I also want to say, because we don't talk about this either. And I might get hate mail, and I hope I don't. But if I do, it's okay, because this is an important part of the conversation. There are two members in any relationship dynamic, at least two. Sometimes there's more than two, but at least two. And even the person who's being abused, I'm gonna put that up there and not say anything. Yes. So husbands that financially abuse or don't contribute to their households in any fashion still want to demand sex or money or food or anything. So when we're talking about financial abuse, thank you, Kim. Appreciate you. When we're talking about financial abuse, it even includes like overusing resources. Like if I buy food and he'd eat everybody's food. Right. So then I'd buy more food to me. I was like, oh, well, that didn't last the week. That lasts half the week. So I buy double, and he'd eat both. Or I'd start buying things that were just for him, like stuff that he likes to eat and stuff that the kids don't eat. And he'd eat both of those things and my stuff and their stuff. And so I'm spending more and more and more to keep the family fed, because he would just sit home and burn through all the groceries. So it's systemic. It's the word I'd use for it. It is systemic. So here's the part nobody likes to talk about. Those of us who have been abused had a part to play. What I don't mean is I'm not saying it's your fault. The actions of any human being are the fault of the person who acted and no one else's. So please do not hear that I'm victim blaming or victim shaming. What I am doing is empowering. So let's take this out of the marriage field for a second. If we're talking about race relations, so there's a lot of that going on, right? And we talk about systemic racism. Okay, is systemic racism real? Absolutely. Has been going on forever? Is it pervasive right now? Oh my gosh, yes. What the issue is when someone who is victimized or someone who experiences systemic racism makes that their banner. And what I mean by that is saying, man, in this case, I'm African American. So if I said, hey, the white man did this, that, and the other, and the white man has all the power, and the white man this, and the white man that, and this is why I can't have fill in the blank. I can't have my dream job because I can't have the money I want because I can't, my business can't work because the white man, right? Is systemic racism real? Yes, it's real. Does it affect people? Yes. If I make that my reason why I can't have a good life, am I empowered to make any changes? And that answer is no. Okay. So I took it out of the domestic violence construct because I want to show you it is not empowering. It may be true, but it's not empowering to keep victimization as your banner. Okay. We need to acknowledge that there was a power dynamic in any domestic violence situation, and the victim of the abuse was not the one in power. Okay. And it is not a victim's fault at all. But, and this is a big but, we do have a role to play. There is something we did. And I don't mean make him mad. That's not what I'm saying. Please hear me and don't put words in I didn't say. I'm going to tell you my own, what I did. And I'm learning still. I'm learning more as we go on and on. I'm continuing to learn what I did and what I can do. Okay. I participated in this dynamic by allowing it. Okay. I allowed this behavior, not only when I got married and knew he had this kind of employment history, what I told myself was, I have a great employment history. I'm just going to make the money and it's going to be fine. I told myself that. I was really, really, really wrong. But I thought that I was going to be okay with the arrangement. So I said yes, even though I knew that's kind of the person I had. He didn't say I'm going to, live on your money forever. It's not what he said. He said, I'm going to find work. But I could see, right? So that was part of the problem. When it was 15 days after the wedding, when I saw the first infidelity. 15 days, y'all. 15 days. And I did not end things right there. I chose not to. I chose to continue. I chose. And so in each incident of allowing, my boundaries got weaker, or I never had any to begin with. And that it kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So yes, and not to my knowledge. So she's asking, was it physical infidelity of 15 days? Not to my knowledge. It could have been. What I found was emotional infidelity, but it very well could have been physical. I don't know. And there was stuff I found out even after everything happened, stuff I didn't know was going on. Okay. But it increased as time went on. So things got worse as time went on. But I allowed those things. And what you might hear words called codependency, and people get real triggered. Don't call me codependent. Okay, I won't. But if you'd like power to change your situation, to not repeat the cycle, my book is about changing your legacy. That has been part of what I bring to the world for a very long time. And if you want to change your legacy, we can't allow someone else's decisions to have all the power over us. And not just in an abuse situation, but but coming out of that, you have to decide, hey, what was my part? What was my part? So enabling that, not calling sin what it is right when you see it. That's enabling. Feeling like you need to fix him, or you can fix him, or you should fix him, or Jesus is going to work through you to fix him. Or, okay, we won't say fix, we'll say help. Okay, because that's code for fix. That is enabling. That's you putting yourself in the role that God has. Okay, and you standing in the way of their consequences. I allowed my former husband to not work and depend on me financially. I allowed that. I allowed it. I could have said, and as a matter of fact, I would pray about this a lot. And I sat in an event and heard a mentor read that situation. She asked for questions before the event. I did not ask that question. I asked something else. But she sure enough did read my life situation out to the stage and gave an example of what I could do to address that. I could say, and she was telling some other wife, I swear it was me, but she was telling some other wife, you can just quit your job and be like, dude, it's your turn. Either you work or we starve. Like, that's real commitment, right? I was not willing to do that. I was not willing to do that. I was like, you know what? We won't starve. And I don't care if I have to bear this burden the rest of my life. We will not starve. And that came from my own stuff. I've been homeless twice. I've gone through some stuff. So that came out of my own situation. So needless to say, I allowed those behaviors. I allowed them. Did I control him? No. But I didn't stop. I didn't say no until it got to a certain point. And I don't hold myself. I'm not mad at myself for that. It is what it is. I wasn't ready until I was ready. And God was incredibly faithful to me. But I just want anyone who's been in that place, or you might be in that place currently, to know that there's a part you play in your rescue. You are your own hero. No one else is your hero. God is the ultimate one in control, but he allows you dominion over yourself, and he doesn't override that. So if you choose to stay, you choose to stay. You choose to go, heaven is with you, and so are we. So we are 47 minutes in, so I want to get to some solutions for you. What do you do if you end up here? You're like, okay, I've heard enough examples. I know exactly. I'm definitely dealing with this. What do I do? Here's a phone number for you. 1-800-799-SAFE. Or if we don't have letters on our numbers anymore, 1-800-799-7233. That is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It is open 24/7. And I think you can even look up online the hotline, if I'm not mistaken, the hotline. And if someone can put it in someone put it in a comment and I'll pop it up. But that is the number you can call. Yes, very good. Don't participate in your own demise. Participate in your rescue, baby. You are the hero. You are the hero. No one else is coming. It's for you. And I can tell you this too, once you decide, and it doesn't mean, I was really, really committed to my marriage and staying married. Okay. And even as I won't tell you the whole thing, but even as, things were unfolding in the courtroom, I was still very, very determined to stay married. So I don't mean like you need to like throw your family away. Okay. That's not what I mean by decide. I mean saying, you know what I did tell a friend of mine was like, hey, we're in this cycle of coping and crisis, and we're in this crisis right now. And I just don't want to go back to coping. That was it. I didn't know what that was going to mean. I just knew that I was done doing this. And I'm like, okay, God, I don't know. And God is so faithful. He made moves. So the hotline.org, or you can call the number as well. And just They are professionals. It's their job to help you navigate the situation with as much or as little information as you want. So that is step one. Okay. I would also encourage you to be seen. And by that, I would call a friend of mine in the crisis while my former husband would rage at me. That's part of emotional abuse. Maybe he doesn't hit you, but he rages at you. He raises his voice, or he holds his body in a way that intimidates, or goes on long monologues of just beating you with their words. And I would call my friend and just have the line open. I didn't even say anything. Just have the line open. Someone can hear me. Someone can hear this. I'm not alone and I'm not crazy. Like, that matters. That matters. Be seen. There was a time I went to a church service and we didn't do that on a regular basis at that time. But I went to a church service so someone could see me and my children, see us. This is what we're going through. I'm about to go home to this crazy person. See me. Document. That's another really big, important thing. Document. If you are, and what I mean by that is talk about what's going on with you. Even if you're talking to yourself, if you are writing in a journal, if you do voice notes on your phone, if you type out notes on your phone, if you're typing email to yourself, this is what happened today. This is what happened today. The date, the time, this is what happened. The date, the time, this is what happened. It's very important to do that for yourself, if nobody else, for yourself. And it's something I use to help piece together what was going on with me, because there was just a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things going on, and you're not even sure what your memory is, but you know what you wrote down. So that's really important. And a matter of fact, you'll read in my book, I have a whole chapter of journal entries and several journal entries throughout the whole story to show you exactly. It's like reading a movie. So you kind of see, added dates and times. Absolutely. So document, journal, track time and date of what happened. He said this, I said that. He said this, I said that. Just for yourself. He said, even emotional things. He said he doesn't love me anymore. He said he loves everybody. I know he's lying. He hates people. Like, just like, that happened to me, for real. That happened to me. I asked my former husband if he was cheating on me with the mistress that was plotting. They were plotting it before I knew about that. I said, hey, are you breaking your covenant with this woman? And he says, no. I said, do you love her? He says, I love everybody. Yeah, I told her I loved her because I told her, I love everybody. I was like, you lying. You hate people. So that was a telltale sign. And I don't mean that to be light. Like, I'm joking about it now. But it was a very traumatic moment while all of that was happening. So document. There are step 3 for what to do. There are a lot of online groups of women who are going through the same thing together. Something I used to judge divorced Christian women. I used to judge them and say, they don't love God. They're not as serious like I am, because if they were serious, they would be staying. Yeah, all of those things. And I think that I was judgmental because I had to fight so hard. And it became an us and them. So if you hear somebody, being judgmental like that, give them some grace. It's likely that they're going through the exact thing that they're upset about. It's likely. It's, not 100%, but it's likely that they're just, don't fight them. Just let them have their peace. You don't have to agree. Just don't fight them. Because they're fighting enough. They're fighting enough. And I say that to say, once I got on this side of the issue and I started reaching out for help, I found so many thousands of wives that were just like me, that loved God, that took their relationship with God really seriously. They took their marriages really seriously, and they were really struggling with whether or not the God they served wanted them to be safe. and they continue to struggle. And I stay plugged into that community so I can feel the pulse of the people. And I never want to forget what that struggle looks like, what it feels like, no matter how far on the healing journey I get. I don't ever want to forget that broken place, because there's so many people there. And I just want to tell you that if you are dealing with that, know that we see you, I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and it's going to be okay. We have an online group called Team Covenant Warriors, and it's on Facebook. And that was the name of my movement even before all this happened. Team Covenant Warrior. And at the time, it was about fighting for the covenant of marriage, and the covenant of staying married, essentially. But a covenant is just an agreement. And we've made agreements with Team, yes, I'm going to put the hashtag up there. So we made agreements with all sorts of things, not just an agreement in marriage, but we made agreement with death in certain situations. And so I Choose Life is still about changing our legacy, changing our agreements. And Team Covenant Warriors is a private Facebook group where women talk about relationship, and you're safe there. So if anyone would like to interact with me via social media, that is the best way to do so at this time. Team Covenant is Team #Covenant Warriors is where you'll find that. And it's right on Facebook, and you can join it. I think you have, I'll approve you to join it. And my inbox is also open on social media. I'd love to talk with you. I am happy to hear your story. You can write as long as you want. It's fine. You don't have to do this alone. Okay, you don't have to. There are all sorts of communities. Team Covenant Warriors is just the one I have. But there's all sorts of communities available for people to love on you and support you and see you throughout this entire journey. So if you know someone, or if you yourself are dealing with this, I want to recommend that you purchase the book. Or if you have a friend or family member, you're like, so-and-so, it really needs this. They need the book. Just go there and get it for them. And you don't say like, you are getting abused and you need to leave. And here's a book to make you leave. Don't say that. It's not a good look. Okay. Just say, I met this lady who has this amazing story. Like, this man almost killed her. You need to read this. Like, that's nuts. Or say, get 2 copies. Say, hey, let's read it together and talk about it. I can tell you this. When people would hear what I was dealing with and they would say things like, you need to leave, something rose up in me to stay. And I felt super righteous about it. And I was like, I'm going to fight with all my fight for my marriage. I don't know what it was. Something would rise up. And that never penetrated. But I tell you what, the people who were just present, didn't tell me what to do, didn't tell me to leave or stay, were just present. Those were the people I could reach out and hold on to when everything was crumbling. And whatever you want to do, Dallas, whatever you want to do, we're here for you. We support you, whatever you want to do. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Kim, thank you for coming. And we're wrapping up too. It's like 58 minutes. You guys have been amazing. Thank you for your interaction. It makes my stories go longer. For sure. But I want to leave you on a good note. For those of you who may not know, I just hosted an event called Sanctuary in Clearwater Beach. It was a 3-day retreat and it was amazing. So I just want to share a brief testimony with you from the Sanctuary retreat. This is Jamie. So I'm going to show you this.
Hi, I am Jamie Anderson and I'm from Nebraska. I just spent the most amazing weekend at the Sanctuary Experience. Do you know what I experienced? I experienced breakthrough. I experienced healing. I experienced sisterhood. I made lifetime friends, women of God. And you know what else I experienced? Everything on this screen. Exactly what it says. Healing, sisterhood, renewal, and fun. If you love yourself, you need to prove it, and you need to invest. Do whatever you have to do. The Lord moved chess pieces in my life for me to get here, and it was the best investment of my life. Dallas Cohen is the person who put this event on, and I honestly, it's the best investment I've ever made. If you love yourself, invest.
All right. She had a really amazing experience that weekend. It was really cool. So, Sanctuary is an event that it comes up every so often. The next time will come up with spring 2022. If you'd like more information about that, you can visit our website, thereboundcoach.com, or, of course, contact me on social. But in between highs of fantastic events, if you have experienced domestic violence, or if you're currently experiencing and need some resources and need some help, or if you have experienced this in your past, betrayal, abuse, or trauma, and you're like, well, what now? What next? I've never dealt with this. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I've been surviving. I've learned how to cope, but I want to fly. I lead people from coping to flying, and I'm happy to do so for you. I would love to chat and see if we're a good fit for coaching. You can contact me. You can go to calendly.com/Dallas Cohen and schedule an appointment. I'd love to hear your story and see if we're fit, if I'm able to walk with you through this process. I am honored to be able to serve in that way. So that wraps up for today. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you for interacting. It's been a lot of fun. Next week, we'll talk about spiritual abuse, and you'll get a whole lot more stories. So thanks again. And until next time, choose life.